You're not imagining it. Things really do feel harder than they should right now. Not in a dramatic way, not in a my life is falling apart way, but in that quiet, exhausting way where even small things take more effort than they used to, where replying to a message feels heavy, where starting something simple feels strangely complicated. If that's where you are, you don't need fixing. You don't need motivation, and you're not behind. You're tired in a very specific way. The kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep. The kind that sits in your chest and your thoughts. The kind that makes life feel slightly muted, slightly harder to carry. And you probably haven't said that out loud, because from the outside, you're functioning. You're doing what you're supposed to do. You're showing up enough that no one is alarmed. But inside, there's this constant sense of effort, like you're moving through invisible resistance. You might be telling yourself things like, why can't I handle this? Other people manage more than this. Nothing is even that wrong. So why do I feel like this? Those thoughts don't mean you're ungrateful. They don't mean you're weak. They mean something inside you has been carrying too much for too long, without enough recovery. When everything feels harder than it should, it's usually not because life suddenly got more difficult. It's because your system hasn't had a real chance to reset. Your nervous system is designed to handle stress in waves. Pressure comes in, then it's supposed to release. But in modern life, especially in fast-paced Western cultures, the pressure rarely fully leaves. Deadlines blur into evenings. Expectations follow you home. Even rest comes with rules. So your system stays slightly activated. Not in full panic. Just enough to keep you alert. Just enough to keep you bracing. Over time, that state becomes exhausting. Your body and mind start conserving energy. Focus narrows. Motivation drops. Emotions feel flatter or heavier. Not because something is wrong with you, but because this is how a protective system responds when it senses ongoing demand without safety. This is important to understand. Avoidance is not laziness. Procrastination is not a character flaw. Numbness is not a lack of caring. They are signals. They are your system quietly saying, I can't keep doing this at the same pace. And yet, because of the culture you live in, you've probably learned to respond to those signals with pressure. You push harder. You criticize yourself. You try to override the feeling. That creates even more tension. So, things feel harder. Not because you're failing, but because you're fighting yourself while already depleted. There's a lot of shame tied to this experience, especially when you can't point to one clear reason for feeling this way. No single crisis. No obvious breakdown. Just HEAVINESS. That emotional overload doesn't always arrive with drama. Sometimes it arrives quietly, through accumulation. Too many expectations. Too much self-monitor. Too little permission to slow down without justification. Your system doesn't measure worth by productivity. It measures safety. And right now, it might not feel very safe to rest. Not emotionally, not internally. So your body does the next best thing. It reduces output. That's not sabotage. That's intelligence. When pressure drops, clarity returns. Not instantly, but gently. You don't regain energy by demanding it. You regain it by creating conditions where effort is no longer constantly required. This is where relief begins. Not by fixing your life, not by optimizing yourself, but by releasing the belief that this state means something bad about you. Not broken. You're responding normally to an abnormal amount of sustained pressure, and the moment you stop arguing with that reality, something softens. You may notice your breath change. Your shoulders drop slightly. Your thoughts slow just a little. That's not you giving up. That's your system recognizing safety. From that place, motivation doesn't come as force. It comes as choice. Not I have to, but I'm allowed to. You're allowed to move at your own pace. You're allowed to take longer than expected. You're allowed to need more space than you used to. None of that disqualifies you from a meaningful life. In fact, it's often what allows one to emerge. There's a version of you underneath the exhaustion that hasn't disappeared. Teire. Just waiting for the pressure to ease enough to come back online. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to prove anything. Agency returns when you stop treating rest as a reward and start treating it as a requirement. Self-trust rebuilds when you listen instead of override. And clarity doesn't come from pushing forward. It comes from settling down. So if today all you do is understand yourself a little better, that's enough. If all you gain is permission to stop blaming yourself, that's progress. You don't need urgency right now. You don't need answers. You need space, and you're allowed to take it. Nothing is wrong with you for finding things hard. You're human in a world that asks a lot. Let that be true, and let yourself breathe there for a moment. No rush, no pressure. Just this.